Those three replays will go up in order of skill, so we'll start at the lowest bronze and make our way up from there. If you're not familiar with replay analysis, this is very much based on mechanics. It's very much based on the solo queue experience. These aren't going to be looked at as a team league environment, of course. These are all from Hero League. There was a draft beforehand, but now we're in the game, so there's no point complaining about that. And I'll be spending very little energy talking about their talents unless they make a huge error. Like, they just completely miss a critical talent, one that has become a main talent for everybody on that tier. Outside of that, as long as they're making use of it in a sort of Hearthstone thought process, as long as they're thinking to themselves, I need to use this ability more for its mana efficiency because I stack talents into it, that's great. So no problems there. If they pick kind of an off talent, no worries at all. We're going to start with a Li Ming, move into a Stitches, and then finish up with Crushinator's Muradin. Kind of climbing in skill, bronze first, slightly higher bronze next, and then Crushinator in gold after that. So, since this is very themed today on Towers of Doom, let's start with some general stuff. Yes. Most of this stuff I just want you to develop a feeling for. You don't actually need to count out 2 minutes on the clock. That is insane. Though there is a fantastic website if you're really interested in doing that. HOTS timers. Really simple. I mean, look how much they reduce the information from something like this, which can be pretty daunting here on Nexus Master. Nexus Master, you're trying to master the map. Whereas HOTS timer, a lot more casual, gonna give you a general overview of the information you need. But one of the cool things about it has this map timer up here. And when you give that a click, you could, on the side of your screen, start this timer. Now, this is only for the boss because this objective can be so wild and has such a range on it. One of the ones I'd like to show you guys here for HOTS timers, check out the Sky Temple timer. This is really slick. It actually tells you which of the towers will be active. And when this completes, I'd have to actually wait through the full minute and a half to see it. When this completes, it'll then show an image of just the bottom lit up. And then it'll give you an OR statement showing you which of the 2 or 3 or 5 option combinations there might be here on somewhere like Sky Temple. So really fancy website. If you're looking to actually tab out and click buttons, I wouldn't recommend it in most cases. So for the most part, we'll be keeping in mind that 2-minute mark on the first altar. 2 minutes after respawn. Is it a hard number? No, it ranges from 150 to 220. So you just sort of develop a feeling for it and then dive on ahead. All right, let's get going with Bridge Burner here.
In 10 seconds.
There we go. All right, so we get to see that Bridge Burner here is using unlock camera, which is fantastic. Let's go ahead and do some top of the thought process game stuff. Important to do, and you should do this every time you start a game. Take a look at the engagements. See what kind of engagement is likely to be happening. Oh my goodness. Look at these teams. This is one of my favorite things about 2.0 right now. While it is easy to be frustrated at some of the choices happening around you, it is a fascinating Wild West time period. I mean, look at Brightwing here. The fact that Brightwing is even healing Diablo, in my opinion, is worth a giggle, is worth a laugh. Diablo's health pool is so ginormous that Brightwing's tiny little passive heals are going to equal the smallest increments for poor Diablo's health. So everything Diablo has to do has to be of the highest efficiency. Basically, health equals damage. If the tank is tanking and absorbing damage, everything's right in the world. But there's a timer there. He has only a limited amount of time before he's dead. And the second he's dead, they're going to collapse onto the back line. So this timer is the DPS's time to get involved and get some damage out. And that is very, extremely true here. Diablo has to make the smartest of engagements. Otherwise, he's going to lose massive amounts of health and get completely zoned out. We do have some really good poke here. We have Nazebo choosing to do a spider build, which is going to be shorter range, but we have a long-range Li Ming, a bruiser of sorts in Butcher. It'd be very important for him to recognize that he is the bruiser for this comp. Basically, that means, in an ideal world, Butcher will walk forward, not run. He will not charge. He will make the engage by walking. Because they have an Illidan here who's very likely to jump to the back line and try to kill, well, Li Ming here, or Brightwing. Once he's on the squishy, Butcher can do a charge backwards and engage and stun that Illidan and help everybody out. Of course, you got a Brightwing right here for a polymorph. That's a great counter to the Illidan in the top. There are going to be some oddities here. It's going to be an Abathur with a Tyrande sort of making together a full support and full specialist. And of course, the mysteries of Probius, which might be a little strong in the bronze environment. Diablo can do the same sort of thing too, where he walks forward and then does a charge backwards. Problem with Diablo is he only gets a stun on his ability if it connects with a wall, if you're unfamiliar with it. It has to slam them into a wall, which means Diablo's angles are extremely important, and also means he can't improvise his retreats or his angles. To push backwards would merely slightly relocate the Illidan if it wasn't on the right angle to create that wall intersection. So this is a pretty scary I mean, the enemy team has lots of damage, particularly considering Probius and Kael'thas here. It's going to be a pretty dangerous game, and Illidan is the main tank. So in that way, we can almost say that Illidan, with his evasion, with the double support he's pseudo getting from Abathur and Tyrande, he probably shouldn't be our first target unless we're absolutely going to decimate him. If he gets a level lead, this is going to be rather dangerous. All right, let's go ahead and get going into the video. Let's see what happens to our man here. And the nice thing is we have that recorded free camera, so we get to see a little bit of what Bridge Burner's camera angles are like. And if you are new to this game, this is really important to me. As a spellcaster, I want to make sure that you are free camera, not locked camera, so that you can set up the best camera angles for yourself. And what he has here is decent enough. He has sight of the main avenues that he might get ganked from in the back there. He has sight of the main battle. We could even say that this might even look better if it was slightly positioned this way, as here in the early game there's very little gank action coming from the back. Now we're definitely spreading around some living bombs already. And since this is a bronze replay, let's go ahead and take that moment to say, living bomb, living bomb! Really important to know. I would say the other ability that is most important for bronzers to know right now would be that Varian's protected status at 4 is invincible. Do not put damage into Varian after 4 when he has protected status. Living Bomb here being the other one that new players will have to learn very quickly. Deals damage over 3 seconds to an enemy and then explodes, dealing even more damage to the nearby enemies. Other heroes damaged by this explosion are also affected by Living Bomb. Those secondary explosions cannot spread. Either way, don't spread explosions onto your buddies. Now, our Li Ming here has gone Force Armor at level 1, which gives her a little bit of survivability there. When a magic missile damages an enemy hero, gain 50 spell armor against the next enemy ability, reducing the damage taken by 50%. So that'll help a little bit, particularly when it comes to getting hit by flame strikes. The weird thing about dot damage is this is going to burn off immediately. The ticking damage of the Living Bomb will destroy layer upon layer, the 4 charges even, of the Force Armor, and you won't actually absorb anything too important. However, I still think this is a fine pick because Tyrande's Lunar Flare, her stun, and the Flame Strike are both going to be very powerful. There's also a Probius running around, so reducing that damage, that burst damage moment by 50% is a great idea. It just won't work as well against Kael'thas, so an interesting thought there. Let us continue. They got themselves a Tyrande. Nazebo battling it out there with Illidan in the bottom. No real concern for us. Our next thought would be, what sort of mini comp can you build? Where can you position yourself for the greatest impact? And there are several choices here. If this was a team environment, we could say, let's send Brightwing to the top, because she has a global. Phase shift, cooldown 55 seconds. Instead of mounting, teleport to an allied hero. It's a long cooldown. Brightwing would have to walk herself all the way to the top, and then teleport back down in order to engage in the fight, to help out somebody, give them some heals. That would leave us with Tank, Bruiser together, and then Li Ming in the back. Not a bad idea. There's enough health, enough engagement, certainly, to lock down a target and create a kill, and Li Ming has enough damage to complete that kill. That is always what it's about. Enough health, CC, and damage to actually win the battle that gets picked in the first place. Let's imagine we do this a little differently then. We could also send Butcher to the top. That's a great choice. He would farm his meat. If you're not familiar with Butcher, he's kind of a late game hero. He has an interesting trait on him. Fresh meat, lots of text here, but basically he has to absorb a bunch of little nodes that drop from lane minions over the course of the game. As he does, he increases his damage and eventually increases his attack speed. Once he completes this, he becomes very much a powerful force. But until it's done, things can be a little lacking on the Butcher front, and every time he dies, he's going to lose some of that stack damage that he's farmed up. So getting Butcher into a nice safe place where he can get his meat can be a very powerful choice. This is also why you might see Butchers hanging out in lane a little longer than you'd like to. They can be, the Butcher, good at taking a Merc camp. The problem is you get no meat from Merc camp, so they just want a lane. So things can be a little strange around the Butcher here. But that would probably be the superior choice that could be made right now. That would leave us very much with that core comp. A tank with CC on him. A healer with CC on her. 2 piles of CC. Good to make these big, long, slow shots or the magic missile connects that we'd need to get the damage out, as this is very much an aimed carrier. So, ideally, Butcher goes to the top here. Brightwing could do it as well. We could send Diablo up there. The worst thing we could do would be to send Li Ming, because that means that this is all health and very little execution. Someone would have to mess up in order for level 1 Butcher to do enough damage to complete the kill with the CC of even these two. That would be... Now, we could send up Diablo, as I said, and then Butcher would recognize himself as the main tank. So a little long-winded there, but gives you a general idea of some of the stuff you should be thinking about even this early on. The choice of who goes top is really big here. Oh no, the living bomb. Get away from that. Oh, you did it. Nice job. So this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Here, Diablo has to heart. Diablo makes a really smart choice, by the way. Diablo could have used his well here. That'd be very disappointing to me. These wells have long cooldowns, and you want to save them for objectives for the most part. If Diablo used a well here, he would take his health. Let's see what his level 1 pick. Okay, so he took charge. So he would take his health maybe to about here. Maybe even here when it's all said and done. But he'd over mana, which would be wasted, and he just simply wouldn't get full health. And then we'd fall in the same problem as Brightwing isn't able to top him off regularly. So Diablo has to hearth here, and it was very smart of him to avoid using his well. Cool, nice little orbs, getting some building damage in, wailing on some towers, a little focused on the middle there. Yeah, there we go, getting down that tower will give your team that sweet XP. Now, as characters start to show up, you'd start thinking about, we're at the 1 minute, 15 minute mark there in the top, or 15 second mark in the top. You're going to start thinking about, can I get some stacks together before the first objective for my force armor? So here you might, in this engage, maybe in about 30 seconds, start thinking about, can I hit some heroes? Maybe build up some protection for when that first objective spawns. Li Ming's going to take herself into the top. So that does leave the middle with that very unexecutable comp of Butcher, Diablo, Brightwing. Particularly against something like Kael'thas, You can even think when you're going up into a Kael'thas, particularly if you're thinking about drafting into a Kael'thas, you start counting melees, and you start counting who wants to hang out by other people. So here you got that butcher, you got the Diablo, you got the Butcher, Li Ming, which can float in many different directions, and Brightwing, who wants to hang out by them, sort of floating in the middle of it, if I were to draw a little butterfly here. Floating in the middle of everybody, often touching them. Kael'thas is really dangerous here. If you are considering doing a Calamity build, you do have to be careful because your teleports, your aggressive teleports, will put you closer to these guys, very likely to spread around living bombs more. Also gathering up for those flame strikes. If you're not familiar with Kael'thas' level 1 talent, Convection Quest. Damaging heroes increases the damage of Flame Strike. When it's completed, and he's hit 20 heroes without dying once, it gets even more bonus damage. This can be really destructive to clogged teams, so you have to be a little careful. So when you're thinking about this, I would say an orb build here would be fantastic. You've got lots of CC. Things are going to be held still out front of you. You even have a Zebo zombie wall, possibly. You are on a poke map, which means when it comes to the objective here, Li Ming's job is pretty cut and dry. It's pretty plain. What you're going to be doing is... Let's go ahead and clear my doodles here. You are going to be poking the objective. This tower is going to come up very shortly. And when it does, people are going to want to channel next to it. They're going to stand right by it, put magic into it or something, so it fires a missile at the enemy core. When the objective is a channeled objective, people are always going to want to stand still, which means you get the benefit of hitting people who are wanting to stand still, which means you can do really long-range, pokey builds for high damage, knowing that they'll still be in that area when all's said and done. So far, this is anyone's game, though. Both teams missed out on the soak in the top. Li Ming aggressively chasing a Probius here, who did run across the line of fire. So now you've been a little distracted, out of position for the main reason that here's that sweet pile of CC we discussed earlier. It is currently applying itself very much to Fog of War's face. You could be a part of this. With all that CC that's about to go into him, he's going to be stuck very still. Maybe he'll wiggle between this area here as he's pushed around by Diablo. But for the most part, this is your time to shine. Let's see if, well, they got a good pickup. But without you here, this is going to last. And it looks like Kael'thas is going to limp away. So you were seduced by the Probius off to unknown lands. Now you're going down to empower a 2v1 against an Illidan. Not a bad choice, as things have gone okay in the top. There is a lack of body presence with an Abathur in the early game. And possibly something like that will hit. Well, he should be good and scared off. You are out of mana. Those magic missiles probably should have been saved for an actual engagement. And the top is able to get a kill. So fantastic. It all worked out in the end. You went ahead and picked up Dominance, which is a great pick, a great carry talent. Plus, you have a Brightwing on your team who does that increment healing I've talked about. So getting a little bit of self-healing in there, particularly percentage-based, is going to be very powerful for you. Now this could push you onto a full Calamity build. Now we're looking at your lane clear, but right now you're just taking care of some pylons. Diablo went a little bit further. There goes Butcher. He's a little in the wrong, but he's doing the good for the team. He's taking a camp down here. He is missing out on those meat stacks. The mid soak is being missed on as well, which is a bummer. As these hit the towers here, it's important to note that there is no hero in range to gather this XP, which means it goes nowhere. Nobody gets it. As these guys die, nothing will happen. You'll get no levels. So having someone even in the area to soak that out is superior. There are 3 in the top right now. Is there a battle up here worth having 3 people for? Well, the mini comp is good. You've got a tank, a support, and an assassin. So this is really nice looking. You are not soaking any more XP because you're up there. These XP numbers overlap. So Illidan, Nazebo, these two numbers are probably 100% unique. Both of them have been farming in the bottom for the whole time and haven't really interacted with anything else. So this number is pretty much a pure contribution. However, your XP is the same shared as Diablo's, and a little bit of Butcher's, and a little bit of Brightwing's. These are not unique numbers. You have been a part of all their XPs, so Diablo being the only one who probably hasn't soaked a lane by himself for a ways, he also had to hearth back there in the early game when he took so much damage. And you can always think about that too, when you're deducing whose damage is best at the moment. Think about what the actual effective damage is going to be on something like this. Is it Kael'thas? Well, yes, that's all going to be effective burst damage. It's going to be large. It's going to be applied to heroes. If we look at someone like Illidan, his hero damage would be rather awful right now. He may be a good player, but he's been solo soaking that bottom. So there's really no telling if things have been going well down there. If he's been getting actual hits in, and what his current skill level is. Thanks to 2.0, giving out all these free skins, one of the ways we used to tell if someone was good is we would look at their skin, see what kind of money investment they made in the hero, and deduce from there. Nowadays, we don't really have that luxury, so we just go off of skills and what we've noted in-game so far in the tab screen.
Your world is upside down.
Kael'thas having a little speech in the top, but looks like things are going pretty dangerous up here. Again, you can see how little damage the tank and the support are able to execute. Even with the low healing of someone like Tyrande, there's just no way for them to get a kill. And now, Diablo, he does get to hearth back here. So this tower placement actually works out for his benefit. And let me go ahead and clear these out. Get out of here. Let's go ahead and get a fresh one. All right, fresh doodle board. Cool. Diablo's in the top. This could be a long walk for him to have to go all the way down to the bottom. However, he can just jump from here to here, get himself healed up. So this actually works out pretty well. More dangerous would have been if these top temples popped, for instance. Now, this second temple phase is going to be pretty darn random. There is some logic to it. We can actually look that up here. I encourage you all to actually go to Nexus Masters and read this for yourself. You can already see some of the convoluted ways the first and fifth set of altars always spawn as 3 altars at once. Other sets always spawn as 1 or 2 altars at once. The first 6 altars spawn in unique configurations. And it goes on from there. Basically, what I want you to have an understanding of is that the very first altar is always going to be the top 2 in either the middle or the bottom. And then it'll go wild from there, and it happens about every 2 minutes, so just be ready to go. Don't worry about it too much for now. Just be ready to go. Let's see how this goes, and let's see how they're able to organize themselves to get in position on time. So Li Ming wants to grab that last little bit of tower damage. It's going to expose her to Kael'thas here. Runaway was a little direct. Possibly could have jumped the wall, may have been short range for this level. Might need that later stack. All right, we're going to grab our well, which is fine. Gives us plenty of mana. Actually gives us over mana right now, which means when you get into combat, you can just spam those spells and do it before you have reached full. That is to say, right here. You see that? That's still regenerating. This health is still regenerating. Your effective health is only about that much. This mana bar is regenerating at about the same amount this health is. So your real mana is going to about here. Sometimes, in some battles, you may grab your well to empower yourself, to give yourself a heal over time. So that while you battle, that heal over time will continue to tick underneath. The overhealing gets used. So here, you've got over mana. Use your mana. When you get in a fight here, just start spamming everything until you start to see that light or darker blue bar disappear. All right, he's getting in position. He's got a Butcher out front. Butcher's heavily damaged, but so is that enemy team. With only nice kill. With only a Tyrande able to heal it with the help of an Abathur. He didn't actually take level 1 healing either. Not much is going to happen there. Now there, it looks like you were safe to channel, but no problem there. Gonna go ahead and push forward. You got Diablo now with you. Good stun by Diablo. Brightwing's just soaking out the top. No shield. Yeah. I guess she did take a level 1, or level, let's see, level 7 shield here. After finishing teleport, the target gets a phase shield, but she's soaking the top against Probius. This is a pretty common support problem. Supports are very observant people. They're an observant people. They enjoy helping. They don't want anything to go to waste. They're there to help the entire team. So they often get stuck soaking a lane that they shouldn't be because nobody's there. The actual answer here is rather complicated. The best answer would be, this is going to fall. Brightwing is not going to stop the superior push power of Probius. Brightwing should teleport to the bottom right now and take this fort. That way, when Probius takes the top fort, we get the bottom fort, and it's an even trade. Instead, what's probably going to happen here is that exact same thing. It's just going to take a really long time in the top, and these guys are in a bit of danger without healing in the bottom, as Illidan starts to res and roll out here, and eventually KO bots. And Brightwing's not going to be able to do anything about this. Probius is just too powerful of a Butcher. Here comes Butcher. So he's going to want that meat as soon as Butcher shows up. This lane is now soaked. There's very little reason for Brightwing to stick around, particularly after the initial combat here. And actually, just so you all know, because it is a rather important part of Probius, save those little hits for as he tries to run away. Worker Rush. Cooldown 30 seconds. Activate to gain an additional 60% movement speed for 5 seconds. If he takes damage during this 5 seconds, that bonus movement will stop. So save things. Here, Butcher messed up. Butcher used his hamstring. He used his little ranged slam that could have been the poke that gave Probius the lack of speed. That also causes a slow, if you're not familiar with it. Hamstring deals damage in a line and slows them for 50%. So not only could have Butcher destroyed Probius's bonus movement speed, he also could have gave it decreased movement speed, and that kill could have been completed. We could also say that maybe Brightwing should have run forward and tried to work on a body block, but that's all a little fancy for our bronze players here. Let's get refocused on our Li Ming. So we do have a Calamity, which is perfectly fine and a great talent to carry with. It'll be more spell damage, pretty effective at helping delete that Illidan who may be trouble later on. It is going to cause some clog. And here we see a spider build from Nazeebo. This means he didn't take my favorite talent, Thing of the Deep, to increase his range. Now Nazeebo, without his level 1 range, is a mid-range character. And as we start to picture these engages, you can think to yourself, okay, so there's big boy Diablo, taking up a lot of space. There's decently big boy Butcher. Then there's going to be a Nazeebo clogging in too. Brightwing's going to want to cover all these with her healing aura, so she's going to be crammed in, and now you're going to be teleporting in to someone probably in melee, maybe like that Illidan. You can see how a Flame Strike and some Living Bombs could be a very quick way to lose this game coming up. We'll see what happens. But the clog is starting to build, and into a Probius as well. Probius, let's go ahead and revisit him and his abilities, particularly Warp Rift. He's going to put out an area effect that causes slows and does a lot of burst damage when he detonates it using an ability stack. So pretty scary stuff going into the mid game here. But nothing wrong with Bridgeburner's build. Because it's a poke map, I think I still would have liked to see that orb build in the end. We'll see, all lanes are being soaked. Nazeebo has been in that bottom lane for almost the entire time, so that could be great for our late game. Currently, we're doing fantastic on towers as well. Get to do our level 10 picks. Now would be the time to get something done. And I say that lightly because this is bronze. And people will always want to regather a sense of comfort whenever they get a lead. Their first goal will always be to teleport back, to go get healed up. Getting them to actually snowball their victories can be difficult. Here, acknowledge your 10. And getting yourself to almost 11 or even to 11 isn't as important as the advantage you have over these guys. Look, they don't have a level 10. None of them have a level 10. This is going to become possibly a bunch of turrets firing at you. This might become a clone of Illidan or even Kael'thas or Tyrande. This is going to be a Phoenix likely, or maybe even a Pyroblast to delete you. This could be also a delete, or maybe a team fight ability, mobility. This could be a stealth, a heal, an area effect. These are all really scary thoughts. You have the advantage now. You've got all of these. Ooh, a little scary stack here. Let me go ahead and describe what my thought process is there. This is Apocalypse. Diablo is going to put out an explosion underneath people's feet that does a good long stun, as the current game is designed. They need to be standing on those pads. They spawn under their feet as though terrain. If they run off of them, they won't get stunned. They won't take this damage. That becomes scary because of Emerald Wind. Brightwing is going to put out a series of winds that push people back and could very much ruin Diablo's plan. So Brightwing has to be careful here so she doesn't botch the combo. The combo will ultimately be Lamb for the Slaughter. At level 20, Slaughterhouse possibly, where he's able to snag everybody. Here, he's able to snag one person. It really gives Butcher the ability to solo somebody, 1v1, and be victorious on the other side. But it's a good combo ability, and you can acknowledge for yourself that when you see this come out, someone's going to be standing mostly still, or at least in the same area for a time, and you should frame your shots accordingly. Gargantuan, someone's a big old unit. It's going to do some zoning. Doesn't necessarily concern you. If you were Li Ming fighting a Nazebo, you need to be careful because Gargantuan will now absorb your incoming orbs and will reduce your ultimate damage. You got to be real careful with Li Ming against spawners. Here, Abathur, that's not really that big of a concern. Those locusts go down the lane. But someone like Anubarak, who spawns little tiny beetles around him, those will get in the way and absorb your magic missiles and your arcane orbs. As we've hit 10 here, let's take some questions from the chat. Tyrande and Probius are bots, aren't they? It says they left. If that's true, it looks like we're good. It looks like we're good here. They may have disconnected in the early game, and that might be the case. But no, we're all good. No bots in this game at the moment. So wait, asked said Animal. If multiple people are within XP range for something, there's personal totals will all go to the full amount, or is it divided by the number of nearby allies? It's all up here. This whole thing is the shared XP bar. The tab screen is more so you can analyze how much each person has contributed to that number. So these are the totals that each person has accrued. Divided up, as I said, these might overlap each other as both characters soak the same lane. This is all the total represented. So this is really what you're ultimately paying attention to. This is more to make sure that things are going well for your team, perhaps. Maybe you are having a problem, you're too low level, and so you might take a look at the screen and say, oh man, we have been under soaking. We need to get on that. Or particularly this is more used to be angry at certain players. For instance, find an actual non-angry statement we can make here is Brightwing is a little low on soak. There is no reason for Brightwing to be this low compared to some of her competitors, particularly someone like Li Ming, who's been very mobile and across multiple lanes. Brightwing, with her teleport ability, should be soaking it out in that lane to the very last minute and then fly down to join a fight and start healing. If you're a healer and there's nothing to heal, you have no job there, so you might as well do something else. That is why, when it comes to channeling objectives, the healer is often the best one to actually channel it. Let's imagine here that this is going to be a full-blown fight, and the enemy team's trying to get through here, and your team's battling them out, and it's a rough battle, and the healer has to keep focusing, and the tank's engaged, and the DPS are engaged, and the healer's engaged, and then the enemy team starts to run away because they've taken too much damage. There is no more damage for this team to take. However, our team here on the right side, I'm horrible at directions, does need to continue to zone to make sure that this doesn't get interrupted. Since there's nothing left to heal, Brightwing would be the best one to do this. You can also think to yourself, who's out of mana? Who's out of health? that should be the person. There's very much, and I think it comes from participators. They want to be team players, particularly tanks. I see a lot of tanks go forward, do the zoning, and then they'll leap around back and do the channeling. They're the main zoners. Their job never ends when it comes to objective. They should always be ready to intercept that team that comes in on them. Bit of a side thought there, but an important one. Is there a term for a combo that cancels itself? Opposite to wombo combo is an uh-oh combo. Maybe. Yeah, the oops combo. They happen frequently, particularly when you think about things like Mighty Gust and Mosh Pit. It can get pretty messy out there, and you need to be careful. All right, let's go ahead and get refocused on our player here, making his way into the top. Cool. We can identify, here's a bruiser of sorts. He can be our main tank. We have support, so this is a great place to be. He can get healed. He can get a little bit of heals as he moves forward. Camera angle a little scary here, a little too high. We don't need to see any of that, so let's go ahead and knock this down. Make sure we're keeping an eye on that Probius in the back. Instead, we're seeing this. It looks like Probius might be able to sneak up on us a little bit and cause some issues. He's certainly locked us in. And looks like it'll just be harmless noise for the most part. Our Li Ming here did do Wave of Force, which is a great counter pick to abilities that require positioning, or if you notice that the enemy team is very slow, and getting them out of position will be a very strong choice. Most likely you were reading a guide here and you saw that the damage on Wave of Force is fantastic. It's going to be a lot of burst damage all in one go. With Calamity, it can be a great way to just sort of pile on top of someone and get them killed. At your current level, I'd like to see Disengage. There's nothing you need to interrupt on that enemy team. A pushback on Illidan doesn't matter because he has Dive. He's just going to reposition. Dive, cooldown 6 seconds. His trait is actually that he reduces his cooldowns every time he attacks. This allows him to reposition. Pushing Illidan back a short distance doesn't change him very much. Any kill now that limps away, we can say was your fault because you didn't take Disintegrate. It's a little strong. I do really like this Wave of Force. I want you to be a deleter. I want you to be amazing. I think Wave of Force is increasing your burden of execution. The fancy way of saying you've made things harder for yourself, and look at your team, you have no long-range poke. Nazeebo's build is that medium range. You have 2 short ranges and another medium range. That's why I'm suggesting that orb build for you here, because you are the longest range character your team has, and it's just easier to do. But, I mean, you could get some sweet kills. They feel awesome, don't they? I mean, it's a great amount of burst damage, and it'll ultimately come down to how you use it. You're off to unknown lands there. Looks like a little bit of a misclick, perhaps. Or were you typing, perhaps? No, no typing. Probably just a misclick as you went on into tower range there. It happens to everybody. You can see now another example of how badly this team is in need of that damage in your area. This Illidan just able to clean up everything. You may notice the camera gets a little odd sometimes as I click around. The replay feature is sort of full of its own little bugs and quirks. Sometimes if you watch one camera for too long, you'll be locked into that for a bit. So excuse the oddities as we move into this next phase and we enter that mid-game. I'm curious to see where you're going to go at 13. Are you going to increase the range? Are you going to invest more into doing your calamities? Or are you going to be a little scared and do something else? Yeah, they're all good choices. Nazeebo takes the bomb. Here, he's going to be a little isolated. But luckily, he's got a big lane next to him. And Illidan doesn't want to get involved in that. Ah, the monstrosity is out. This is Abathur's other heroic. Look at all that text. But basically, he's able to hat and control a mini hero of sorts. And it does a lot of auto attack damage. Never underestimate that thing's ability to kill you or kill buildings. A bizarre choice for the comp and map. But it's a fun ability, and I, on a personal level, can't blame Abathur's for taking it much. Still really weird for this Hero League comp that they put together on the enemy side without a tank in the first place. But with the zoning of Probius, with Illidan keeping everyone so busy, with the pure damage of Kael'thas, and the high damage of their support Tyrande, they may just have the room to spare. and have a monstrosity on the team. That's going to increase his overall soak. All these little kills that it's getting in lane are adding up and going to help them recover that level lead they lost.
Go! Do not let the altars fall into the Raven Lord's talons.
Looks like it'll just be a safe channel.
Lord will not keep me from this realm. Fire the towers! Destroy the Raven Lord!
Well, dang. Well, we're doing pretty fantastic in this map. Little push there did confuse the Illidan a bit. He had to use his Metamorphosis to run away. You can instantly call this a victory in your head. Check it out. Metamorphosis. Cooldown 2 minutes. He also gets health. Maximum health for each hero he hits in that impact circle. When Illidan uses this to run away, big victory for you. Illidan will likely not be re-engaging during his 18 seconds of empowerment. Awesome. You scared him off. Now you overextended past your CC, past your support. Illidan sees that you're out by yourself. Your force armor not going to help you out a lot against Illidan. Diablo actually ends up getting a stun there. As we walk away, sadly not a completed kill in the end. Butcher cleaning up that top now. Butcher's weapons glow when he completes his quest. So he doing all this side stuff, doing a little bit of merc for you all. Hasn't been able to complete that out. That damage, Starfall, the non-support heroic pick by Tyrande, means there's a lot of damage on this team suddenly on the enemy side, and things could get pretty dangerous. Judging by our game time, though, I think we're going to be okay, and Bridgeburner will make it through this one. Oh, okay, luckily, it's not a full Al build. A full Al build may have been a delete there. Cool. They took out our middle. Now there's for Towers of Doom here, there's very little reason for Nazeebo to be here at the moment. He should probably go soak top, maybe counter push out this Abathur that we see by the Locust coming down the lane. This tower needs to build. This is exactly what happens if you report too early. Nazeebo overextends past the tower. Now, well, he took it back. Got my colors confused here. We're on the red team. But, wait, no, we're on the, okay, yes, my colors are rightfully confused. Okay, cool, so here's what's happening. Nazeebo has over-pushed, which means these minions now are attacking this. If Nazeebo got ganked here, if Illidan came running in, Nazeebo would have to run for it. He would be dead, because he would have to retreat through a fort that does little icicles of damage. So this is very dangerous. There's no reason for Nazeebo to be here, sandwiched between two separate forts. Oh my goodness. There's honestly, because the current state of this game as it is right now, there's very little danger to Nazeebo, but in another league, in another game, that would be so horribly punished and preyed upon. That would be a very dead Nazeebo right there. But looks like you guys will channel this out. A nice little stun there on Illidan, the main tank, the main bruiser for that whole enemy team. He does engage again. You get a nice little shot off there. No resets though yet. Shot right into Probius's face there. Brightwing uses her wins, but those turrets are going to be too strong. And Diablo manages to channel the top shot. Well, with how bummed you sound in your email, I thought this was going to be a horrible loss in 13 minutes. But you end up doing very well. Awesome, guys. Nice job there. Being a friendly player. Let's go ahead and take a look at your damage. Ooh, MVP for you. Nice job. Few deaths. So you got soaking a lot. Lots of siege damage there. Could have been those buildings that you were poking in the early game. No problem with that. If you're really loving lane clear, Li Ming will not be the character for it. You should take yourself on to Kael'thas or Jaina. Even Probius Gul'dan. But here, this is just building damage, and that's no big deal. Your overall hero damage is about where we would expect. Nazeebo dueling Illidan in the bottom almost the entire game had a slightly inflated hero damage, despite his, we can see here, the kill assist. So you participate in a lot more team fights. He just kept poking this poor Illidan over and over again. Sadly, since he isn't counted as a tank, we don't get to see his absorbed damage. But here would be your sort of end-of-game analysis that you would do for yourself. to see how you did. If your tank did well, go ahead and take a look at this damage number here. The supported healed number, 34,000, and 41,000 absorbed by the tank. Fantastic. 30,000 being the highest damage on the enemy side. We can safely say that most of the damage went into the correct targets, went into those tanks, was healed by the supports, and you played very safe. 1 kill, great damage, or 1 kill, or 1 death, with 3 kills, 6 assists, great damage, great soak, decent choices as to which lane you were going to participate in. I hope that gives you some perspective as to how a game that doesn't go as smoothly as this one can be changed just by your choice of presence in that lane. And keep things easier for yourself and avoid that choke. That was scary. It was kind of scary doing a Calamity build there into Kael'thas with the clog you had in the mid-range. Diablo also kind of mid-range because he wants to line up those nice charges into walls. So it can be a very scary thing. And power up our next replay, which comes from Odin's Eye on Stitches. He is bronze. Odin's Eye says, I have just found a love for the hook and need some pointers. Thanks for all the info and the great shows. Simple email. Wondering if he'd get on the show. Well, you did. You made it. We're still going back to Towers of Doom. If you're just joining us here, this is a Towers of Doom centric day. Always be keeping in mind those map mechanics. Here listed a little easier. What you really want to be thinking about the entire time is objectives every 2 minutes. So as long as you are free, healthy, with mana, and in position, every 2 minutes, an altar is going to spawn. Once it's completed, all of them are completed, another 2 minutes onto your mental clock. You can do something cute like go over to HOTS timers here, grab a map timer, start timing it out, but this will be useful for the boss. Not all of them are, and there's always going to be this variance. So timers like this aren't always the best thing for you. So go ahead and just start building a awareness of about what 2 minutes feels like. Really, you should just be getting one thing done. The objective ends, cool. Let's go take Merc camps. Then I'll go heal. Awesome. That's probably about all you had time for. Let's start thinking about getting in position. Let's avoid team fights. Let's not blow heroics because we're about to have a full-blown objective fight. The first set of altars is always pretty predictable, going to be in the top and then somewhere in the middle. After that, it can get a little crazy, and we won't really get into that too heavily today, as these are all new players and bronzers just trying to figure out their jams. All right, let's go ahead and find our Odin's Eye. Wow, what a horrifying combination of meat and piled on objects with a oven mitt and a lion with that feather on top. We are currently seeing Odin's Eye's camera. So as he moves out here, we should get a look at what sort of things he's looking at. This is going to be really important on someone like Stitches, because Stitches is going to have to actually connect hooks in the first place. So using something like lock camera could be pretty dangerous here. You won't actually be looking in the right areas in some regards. So we could see a very short-range style of play for Stitches here. As always, let's go ahead and start with an analysis of how these engagements are going to go and what you should expect and where your attention should be since you are main tank here. You already did something really cute. You took a Stitches here. Whoopsies. You took a Stitches here with a Hammer. That's a cute combo. Pull people into Hammer's range. Hammer's range is big. She keeps wailing on them. They try to walk away. You pull them back. Notice how I said that, too. That is really important. They walk away, and you pull them back. That is going to be the best way to play Stitches for a long time. Until you are just a madman at landing sweet hooks onto the back line, focus on using your hook in this way. Look at that enemy team. Look at Anubarak. Anubarak is, at this point, the dive character. If someone's going to build a dive comp, they want Anubarak. They might take a Tyrael to go along with something along those lines. But just the fact that Anubarak is on the team makes it a pseudo-dive comp. Does he have any accomplices here? A Kerrigan, an Illidan, a Greymane? No, nothing like that. Ragnaros will want to stay in melee. It's very helpful for him, able to hit a lot of people. Another good character into the clog. But just by nature of a Nubarak, he's going to burrow charge. He's going to close a distance. This should be his engage. If you hook a Nubarak, all's wrong in the world. You have now allowed him to use his burrow charge for escape, and whatever fight he can now pick while he's in your face, he will do. And he will do it very well because he has another stun on his kit called Impale, which is going to stun people in a line for 1 second. He also has a little bit of survivability to recover from any burst damage that might go out on him. Just by his nature, by his passives, he has a little bit of spell reduction too. So you need to be careful of that. Hook is spell damage. Putting spell damage into the tank in the very first place is a bad idea. Remember, they're a health pool. They're a timer. They are the engagement for the enemy team. If you put long cooldown, expensive things into big health pools, guess what? You get very, very little value. Instead, you could probably picture, look at this health pool. Hitting Greymane with a burst spell is a greater percentage of his health pool, and so he'll feel a little better. Right now, we are locked onto Stitches. This is a bug. Greymane's health at level 1 is not 3,121. That is Stitches' health. But you can see by the boxes. Just look at Hammer's number of boxes compared to Stitches there to get an idea of that. Let's continue. Picturing the engage. What's going to happen, likely, is a Nubarak, this guy here, Bugman, is going to go forward, exploding into an area, and then getting off a line stump, just clogging up as much as he can. Gazlo, this nasty little guy, is going to run forward and put out a pad that stuns. Malfurion, another little nasty guy, is going to run in and put out a root area. Uh-oh. Nazebo is going to put out a zombie wall. Oh no, you're starting to see how this is lining up. And then Ragnaros, and let's actually take a look at Ragnaros' ability here. Empower Sulfurous. Next basic attack is instant, dealing damage. Ability damage. Healing for 20% of the damage dealt. Healing doubled versus heroes. So this does a slam in an area, which means if he hits multiple heroes, he's going to get a big heal. You can already start to see why this is rather scary. Lots of circles. Mega circles piling on top of each other over and over and over again. Lots of healing. Ragnaros comes in and smashes all over it. Lots of ways to make a snag on something like your hammer here. So you're going to have to be a little careful. For your side, though, you should be focusing on those hooks as a way to re-engage, to keep people in Hammer's range. Don't pull people, particularly tanks, into Hammer's range unless there's some sort of plan there. You have an Ariel as well, which is solid. This Ariel here. Go ahead and get a fresh version of that as it's bugged up a little bit. There's that burrow charge. So Ariel here has a pushback, which is also going to be very helpful. See how hard they're diving in here. There's a moment, actually. Let's go ahead and go back for a second here. A fantastic little moment worth mentioning. So here, things are pretty casual. You're having a good time. Suddenly a Nubarak shows up on the scene. He's in your face. You do some damage to him. You get some health back. Awesome. How effective was that health back? Should you have waited and taken more damage first? Possibly. Let's see. Restoring 20% of Stitch's maximum health. Are you missing 20%? Okay, about on. So a good heal there. Maybe a little bit of overhealing. So here, a Nubarak tries to squeeze by you. You get caught in the Malfurion root. Here's a pushback from Hammer using her ability. Now your number one goal, until Hammer here decides to unsiege and run for it, will be to place yourself right there. Get in there. Stop these melee attackers from attacking your hammer. Just slam yourself in there. Crowd in there. Don't let something like this happen, where the Nubarak gets to attack freely. Now, a nice little snag there allowed you to get a kill. I'm very happy to see that as one of your first hooks in the game. Greymane getting a little pushed out in that bottom. He could use some ranged help, meaning that he would have to go get the Ariel. Ariel should go join him now. Lots and lots of tower damage there. Let's go ahead and rewind. Basically to say that there is no way to recover this, as you may have noticed. Here we can see your cooldowns. You do not have a Devourer ready to go. You actually killed there a turret. Non-heroic unit. So you could have used that on this turret to get a heal. Sort of leave yourself a snack available. There, you killed it too fast. Again, now your health is stuck. How long is the cooldown here? 20 seconds? You could be getting ready for yet another heal. There, you use it, but now it's a little late. Taking a lot of health damage. The support is heading bottom to help out Greymane. So this top comp needs to be very effective because it doesn't have that support. Like we talked about in the last game, you have 2/3 of a core comp here. You've got the tank, you've got the DPS, there is no support. So all the damage you take here is very permanent. Can be tempting. Don't do it. You just re-engage the dive tank. It's not going to do anything. All right. We're starting to watch that timer. Always having that 2-minute mark in your head.
The altars are rising from
Cool. This one's going to be a little early. 30-second clock starts ticking. You should be hearthing. Get out of here. Go get mana. Go use your well. It might leave you a little low mana. I think if you just left the second it happened. That was cute. Might have grabbed a Gazlowe there. If you left the second it happened, okay, the well's going to full heal you. That'll be a good amount of mana, so no problems there. Oh, now you're taking damage. Now you're losing health. You're losing effective health without a support around. If the support was around, you'd still be in the wrong because then they'd be using their heal on you. Their very valuable mana. However, yeah, here you have an Ariel who operates on Hope, which is a little different. Hope is based on damage dealt around her by her crown target. It's a little complicated, but basically Ariel, with a good battery, with someone who does enough damage for a long enough period of time, can heal infinitely. Every time you take a heal from her, though, you will take that bank, that stored health energy. So this is still a bad decision, no matter how you look at it.
Finally, the altars are ready. Capture them, heroes, and be quick about it.
All right. Here you go. Focusing on the low health guy, but that's not your job. That's not your job. That's an assassin's job, to kill people. You can hook them as they run away, but why are you chasing? If you miss your hook, don't chase. You don't have mobility. That is to say, who on this team should chase? Well, it's pretty obvious. Right now, I mean, this is kind of a madhouse down here. Poor Greymane is having a bit of a rough time. But Greymane has his Dark Flight, which allows him to chase very well. He also has Swipe, which gives him, you can see here, noted by this large swipey area in front of him, and the arrow, how far he goes with Swipe. You also have a Valeera, who has a little bit of bonus movement speed while she's in stealth. Absolutely, Valeera should chase. You need to maintain the front line. You need to maintain something like poor Ariel here feeling comfortable enough to continue to make engages. Now you've chased down here. Looks like you're about to be seduced down this way for some reason. I'm not sure. Either way, you need to be helping out your dudes up here. Still a little seduced. Go ahead and join that back line there. They're doing a good job. That Anubarak's almost down. Nice body block there. Yeah, getting rid of a little fancy treated. No big deal. And a dead Gazlowe. That always feels nice.
Fire the towers. Destroy
Cool.
the Raven Lord.
No problem. First objective, down a couple shots. No worries. No harm done. Now we split. You took yourself into the nearest lane. Is that bad? Are the other lanes going to be soaked? You may want to be the person to go to the most distant lane because everybody wants to go to the nearest lane and start clearing it out. It's just fun. It's simple. You should also be thinking about where you can build that mini comp. So you're going to take yourself into the top now. There's going to be a Valera and Greymane in the bottom. Okay, this is decent. Nothing truly bad because of Stitch's massive health pool is going to really happen to him in the top there. There are 2 in the bottom. There's a support for the long-range DPS. There's CC for the Greymane. Things are going to go through. We can already see him dinging. These are great mini comps. Everything worked out well here. Of course, you're going to get out-pushed by a Nubarak. His beetles do a great job absorbing damage, taking shots from the minions, wasting tower shots. Now with a Gazlo here, things are going to get pretty darn destructive. You always have your Devourer to just keep going, have that massive health, but ultimately you will lose this out. Here come some people, though. So did you miss that? They came across the minimap. There was time to prepare. There was time to get aggressive. There was time maybe even to take more damage and bait them a little bit. A good slam, though, cleans up there. You have a nice open angle, too. A little beetle in front of your feet, though. Would have ruined that hook. Possibly a chance to get him, but no big deal. I'd like to see you go ahead and hearth back for mana now, because you've already done one thing. You defended. And we can already start to feel that 2 minutes building up. There it is. It's just a feeling. You can say between 1:50 and 2:20, but that's useless to most people. Develop that feeling. Single shrine for this one, so you'd be very aware of your positioning as you move in. Mostly focusing on self-support for yourself. We'll take a little break here at 10 to answer some questions from the chat, but also to kind of talk about how the talent builds have come together and what sort of things you might need to be aware of into the late game. Nice little hook onto the support there. I'm pretty impressed with these hooks that you're doing with such a locked camera. So looks like that is not an issue for you. There is some business happening up there, but you've got a nice little mini comp down here. This looks like pure insanity, but hey, ranged with CC. That's gonna get a kill. So this is a great little split you guys are doing. Nice. All right. Beginner mistake there. We all do it. We all pile on abilities. It's super fun. You want to get a kill as fast as possible. You saw poor Malfurion there up against a wall, but you missed out on some full duration CCs. So Ariel gets off a whip there, and a whip, a detainment strike, stuns for 1.25 seconds. You do not have that yet, actually. Okay. All right. Yeah. So it's all good. It's all good. You're just doing damage. It's all good. Basically, the point being, if it had actually come up, which it didn't there, that if you stack a slow and a stun, they do not stack. If 2 stuns come out together, they do not stack. They do not add on the back. So you always got to be careful to make sure that you get the full duration out of every CC that's put into them. However, there you are, perfectly fine. An opportunity for you to grab that there. Greymane a little exposed in the front. I would have liked to see you continue zoning and have someone in the back grab that thing. But hey, here in Bronze, you may have experienced some times where maybe people didn't grab anything at all after it sat there. So if that is a learned response, absolutely continue. And we overstay our welcome, but hey, a res comes out from Ariel. Uh-oh. Is this going to be a lonely res? Sadly, no one in response range. I think you could have made a heroic run for it, but Ariel may very well have doomed you to a second death there. And twice as much XP, sadly. One of the dangers of Resurrection is it does not limit the XP that is given by your deaths. Doesn't reduce it at all. So you're just going to find it can be more dangerous than Aegis, ultimately. However, in a mistake-filled land like Bronze, I don't think it'll be too bad. Let's go ahead and see what the enemy 10s are, and then we'll take that little breather here and talk about it. All right, so you're a smash. Another Toad build from Nazebo. I guess you... No, I still don't get it. There's a Tranquility, fantastic for you guys. A Web Blast. And a couple of dudes taking way too long to decide. Gazlo with his current build could go either, honestly, and Zevo should go Gargantuan, but then again, Ravenous Spirit may be pretty powerful in this league with how much CC they have in that frontline area, with the Malfurion included. Yep, so here's that exact thing we talked about previous game. They're taking this. There's no stopping that. And what is, oh my goodness, what is solo Ariel going to do about it? Nothing. With a Nazeebo and a Nubarak in her face. She is going to do nothing. So you guys are in the right. Ariel's in the wrong here. Absolutely take the bottom for it. Trade it out. Stay on the same level. Don't get stuck in a reactionary loop. Well, we'll see what those talent picks are in the future. But let's go ahead and see what you guys are talking about here while this game goes on. Is Ariel getting any mana hatting stitches? Yes, because of her level 7 pick, Empathetic Link. Ariel stores 25% of the damage taken by allies with Bestow Hope. So we can also take a look here and see if Ariel's maybe making a smart choice. So Stitches, actually this is a pretty low damage, or well, not necessarily low damage game, but this is a pretty altogether contributor game. The range is only 8,000 between separate heroes, and all this damage from Gazlo has basically been from the poke of his turrets and his lasers that he's been charging up. So that effective damage wouldn't be as scary as maybe like this top damage Greymane, where, you know, he's being a little fancy. 2 deaths, maybe we shouldn't put all the heals into him. We don't overinvest in this Greymane. But Stitches down here, not contributing a lot of health, but certainly taking 30,000 damage at the moment, with 18 on the top, 14 being the next, with Malfurion there as the next highest damage for some reason or another. I guess he's been doing a lot of Moonfires. He went Trident. That increases his overall damage. And Strangling Vines, which is a very low amount of damage increase as a level 7 pick. Not the best one. He also took Tranquility, so he's making some... When it comes to Tranquility right now, just for you all to know, it's just not powerful enough. You have mana issues on Malfurion. This is a very expensive spell. It does not really save lives in our more bursty meta at the moment. And you're going to want to do Silence. And that's one of those sad little facts of balance at the moment. Do the Silence. It's more impactful. You're going to win more games. This is a little too passive. Same goes with Cocoon. There is no mega hero on the enemy side. If you put a Greymane inside of a Cocoon, there's still a Hammer who's likely in range to destroy said Cocoon, because you can pop them out of it. If you put Hammer in the Cocoon, there's still a Greymane going. If you put Stitches in there, this team is decently tanky enough with a Valeera and a Greymane to keep going. So a really odd choice there as well. However, Sulfurous Smash you need to be aware of. Big damage. Comes down in the center of it. You get a huge stun, half second. As far as the current stuns in the game go, that's a long time. Need to be watching for your Clog. Make sure you're not grouping up too close on everybody else. This will mainly be used on Hammer. You could be crazy cute and plan for this if you really wanted to. You could do a Helping Hand, where you use your hook to pull an ally, reducing the cooldown. You could help reposition the Hammer around a little bit. That's a little advanced. It's a little wacky. It's going to take your cooldown. 50% is still a full 8-second cooldown for your main engage, one of your main damage spells too on Stitches. But it could help Hammer avoid. Really cute idea. Probably doesn't actually work too well in real practice, but you could help her avoid the Clog repositioning if she doesn't like getting out of that turret mode, that siege mode. And who knows, a Bronze Hammer, particularly one that does Blunt Force Gun on Towers of Doom, might be taking Hover Siege later on. As for our own team, large percentage-based damage in Cursed Bullet is going to be taking out one of the frontliners, ideally, or helping wear them down. That Resurrect you already saw. Some splash damage in a line from Blunt Force. A Smoke Bomb. Basically, Valeera just does her own thing, and she's trying to save herself. And you took Gorge. So who is your Gorge target? Well, it's not Gazlo, because all this damage is coming from his spawns. It could be Malfurion to remove healing, and a lot of healing, from the battlefield. If it was a Swarm, a new Barak, I'd say he'd be a decent target. So basically, you'll just be removing whatever's highest damage at the time. And right now, that appears to be, you know, actually Malfurion. You remove a high damage and the support from the team. So why not identify that? Interesting little game here. Let's continue. A Gazlowe appears. Those turrets doing a lot of damage. Without the support in range, Ariel making that mistake here. That damage is going to be very effective. There goes a surprise Malfurion. A little blind hook there. Could have been close. Hammer takes out the Gazlowe. And sadly, because of Ariel's actions, things have gotten a little convoluted here. The death caused people to go, oh, we need to defend things. And now they're defending a mid, and we didn't trade. You now empowered with that knowledge, probably should have taken your team to the fort instead of doing the camp first. That camp was then cleared up by Rag here and Malfurion and didn't actually get anything done other than being removed from the battle. That's interesting. That was a great whiff. And with that cooldown now going of 80 seconds, and it used that way, we can make a judgment call and say, okay, Ragnaros, that was a bad spell. There was no reason to use your high cooldown, expensive spell, your heroic, on a solo tank in lane. Rag is now bad in my mind, and we could do something cute if we got some range, some damage in our area. Oh my goodness, nice hook there. Good shot right through the minions. If you had some more damage in range, I would have done that earlier. This could still work out, but sadly, with the minions coming in range, they do have attack priority by the computer there for the fort, which means Rag was not targeted by the little ice bolts that slow coming out of the fort there. If you had maybe another character in range, that Gorge could have been really effective. Or you just did it before, when you first made that hook, before the minions made it into the tower range, so that sweet slow and that damage is also participating. So a bummer there.
Go! Do not let the altars fall.
Here,
into
2
the
dead for
Raven
them.
Lord's
Fantastic.
talons.
So let's go ahead and take a forward position here. We're currently battling around our back one, but I want you to beeline to the enemy
Send his
and make sure that you can get both of those. They take the fort in the bottom, which is going to reduce your overall core shots. You can actually see that on the tower, what, epigee here? You can see how many you have. It's kind of useless, because you could also just look at this and say, all right, okay, so we got enemy side is going to get a tower, and they'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shots that'll fly into us, reducing the core health, giving them a victory. If you don't want to look at it like that, you could also go, okay, we're about to get 3. How fantastic. But you could also look right here. Here are 2 empowered shots, including the core. That gives you 3 on the enemy. Right here, you can read exactly that same thing on the enemy side. 1, 2, 3, 4, plus a core equals that 5 shots to them. This works on Infernal Shrines. A lot of the shrine mechanics or channeled objectives have cute little information that you can pull out of them if you know where to look. Stitch's channels, no problem with that, as he's the first one on the scene. Ideally, Hammer would channel while you and Valera zone, but 3 dead on the enemy side. You know, there's no point being fancy just for fancy's sake when you're already doing a pretty good job. Here's a chance we can pile on. This is where I'd want to, yes, awesome. Cool, you're already doing it. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see that execution because I want to stagger. I want this guy very dead, and I want them to continue to have deaths on their team for as long as possible. Ooh, there goes the Stitches too. Valera's on it. Or in the Zebo as well. Nice. And we get it done. Ooh, you took an interesting talent here. You grabbed up Fleabag, which Stitches is stunned or rooted. His basic ability cooldowns are reduced by 6 seconds. Now, with a level lead, you get to have some fun. Start walking inside of roots that Malfurion puts out. Probably shouldn't stand in the middle of the Ragnaros Slam. Even though it gives you a stun, it's a lot of damage. So probably should just avoid that one. But when you're up against Malfurion, you can do some really cute stuff with talents like Relentless, in which this Fleabag is a version of. Greymane's working on the bottom there, so some of your executable damage is in an odd space. They web blast you, hoping to get a hold of Hammer. Hammer is a little slow to react from it, so exactly how we thought this Hammer would be playing in bronze here. So they dove past you. They got the Ariel. Hammer had to run for it. Luckily, it's not objective time, so she can just hearth right on back with very little trouble. Cool, use your well, giving you a lot of healing thanks to your amplified healing talent. Most wells do not heal for that much, but you took a level 4 talent there. That'll help you out. Good body block by Anubrak. Big ol' heal, though. You could just gorge that Anubrak if you want to get by him. You're going to walk around and oh, you got a hold of, looks like Gazlo into the turrets. Nice. That's so much damage. Sadly, good hook. Sadly, Hammer is just whipping all of these BFGs, but I guess they're going across the enemy forts too. Here's Greymane. See if we can get you a little bit of health. Close. Close. Good of you to have this eye. I'm very impressed. This is a great eye you've already developed for Stitches. Always be checking out that Hammer. Cool. Gravitating range. Awesome. Very happy to see it. Will of Heaven attack speed, so that's for Hammer. Alpha Killer is a giant killer version for Greymane, so he wants to do percentage-based damage into Anubarax, and Ragnaros has a good amount of health too. You went with Fishing Hook, which I think is a great pick for you because you've got some hook skills on you in the first place. Acid Dripped Mandibles won't affect you much, but Anubarax will do increased damage. It's just a full heal build for Malfurion. This is not how you should be playing him at the moment. Sadly, I absolutely understand, coming from World of Warcraft, why you might pick nothing but the healing talents. They're just not very effective.
Heroes, I have opened
Objective is coming up. We're trying to get some towers back on our side. People are draining health, though. It's important to note here that Ariel's Hope gets a lot more. 40% of the damage dealt to heroes and only 8% of the damage dealt to non-heroes. So when you're just wailing on forts and the like, you're going to have some pretty low effectiveness in her heals. You have to be really careful. Make sure you're not taking a bunch of random damage. Close little shot there onto Malfurion. You knew where Anubarax was, so it was a perfectly safe shot to take. If you didn't know where Anubarax was, there's always that chance you're going to make an engage for him that he's going to like. So good on ya. Loving your eye. Nice. Valeera got a kill all by herself. She'll likely be in quite a bit of danger there, but Smoke Bomb actually comes out. So who is... Now we're in the late game. Or not late, but of course. Let's look at your main damage. Valeera has been operating as a solo agent. This is fantastic. Hammer is giving you your greatest number next. And outside of that, Greymane's pretty low, but he's had to be pretty squirrely. Ariel hasn't really been taking care of him. So we have two choices here. Do you like Greymane? Are you friends? Do you think you can get more damage out of him if you really help him out? Or should you just empower Hammer to get as much damage as possible? Now is the time you really need to stop working as a solo agent and start thinking about who you're empowering to do the most. So right now you're just chasing. You're just chasing a healing, a near, not quite invincible. You have a 2-level lead here, but a very persistent Malfurion. Here you're interrupting the objective because no one else was. That's perfectly fine. But what happened to Valeera? Well, she was off doing her own thing for a while, and she's going to res here, so no problem. I thought you might be going for a helping hand there. That would have been pretty cool. All right, now you have an advantage. You guys are pushing in. A little bit of an overextension. You can go and put your face in there. Yeah, don't confuse this message. At this point, with the main tank on the enemy side dead, go ahead and just force yourself right in there. Get a little stupid. You're 2 levels up after all. Force yourself in here. Make everyone on your team know that this is what's going down. I do not care about these guys. They're dead to me. Here goes Valeera too. If Valeera pops out during this time before the minions actually get in range, guess what? This tower's going to start shooting Valeera. She'll be dead with that decreased movement speed, with all that damage going into her. So be the tank. Be the one to take that damage so she can pop out of stealth earlier and do whatever she's trying to do, which is probably kill Malfurion. Fantastic to have stealthies that do their jobs. I'm not saying that bitterly, though. It's just a great thing. Nothing you can do about this. See, here, the tower locked on to Valeera, and it was going to keep on her until she left the range for a short amount of time and then re-engage. So not your fault there that it locked on to her, but we could have avoided that early on. Could we avoid it here, Valeera hearthing back in the first place at all? Instead, she has to go back. She has to sit here. Now she's not a part of this. How much faster would this have gone? How much faster would this have gone? You can start to see how things snowball when you take full-blown hearth breaks, when you're not saving yourself a well for later. We got a Gazlo pretty deep there. Looks like an Anubrak's going to try to go in. Not a bad idea to put yourself in between these turrets here. They are augmented to shoot multiple targets, though, so you're not quite tanking. Here it is. Rocket, turret, extra large, 2 additional targets. You can see the little... Well, actually, I love these guys because you can see the little sunglasses on them. Right there, yeah, see? They're cool guys. And it's a decent talent. More effective on things like Infernal Shrines. You can acknowledge there that that hook probably wouldn't have done anything because you were going to use it on a Nubrak who, in your mind, you could still picture had his dive cooldown ready to go. Now would be the time. There you go. There goes a Nubrak. That's the time to get him. That's the time because he's on cooldown there. And let's actually take a look at that cooldown here. That is his Burrow Charge 12-second cooldown. When that is off cooldown, that is the perfect time to kill a Nubrak. The other cooldown would be to watch for his Locust Swarm, which he didn't take as his heroic. But using a hook in that case wouldn't have done anything. If something bad were to happen in the next 12 seconds, if you missed a kill, you could 100% be blamed for using a cooldown there. However, if someone was dead, you were just going for another pick. It's very casual, but something to keep in mind. Ariel's doing a little bit of zoning. Hammer firing over the wall. Little scary there. Ariel's hatting you at the moment for the damage you'll receive. Either way, wouldn't give her a lot of hope. But she needs to get her self topped off a little bit. Valera all the way in the top there. Very far away. You're going to go and power your Greymane. Not a bad choice. He's been performing pretty well. Into the cocoon you go, though. They take care of the middle, though. 2 levels up. You're level 20 now. You went with Blink for more cute gorge action. Lots of damage, but you got things to heal off of. You got a Blink to get away. I want to see that heal even sooner. Why hasn't it been used? Use that heal. Not because you're in danger, because I want to see another heal used on the next cooldown when it's ready to go. Just keep chanting that thing. More so, too, think of it like Hearthstone, in a way. This is your hand. You've got 7 cards in your hand. And every time you take a talent, you're going to play a card. You have, in order to do your sweet combo, you've taken Chew Your Food, Amplified Healing, and Savor the Flavor. When you cast Devour, you're basically playing 4 cards out of your hand. You're saying this is a highly invested ability. At 55 mana, at 40 mana, at 75 mana, you should always use Devour over everything else because of all the talents you put into it. It is the most effective per point of mana spell that you have created for yourself. If you were Jaina and you put all your talents into Blizzard, cast Blizzard instead of a Frostbolt. It's a very simple idea. But I want to see more. More healing, more tanking. More damage, too. For that very same reason. Cool. Nice little bite there. Slam onto mouth. You can see just how, look at that heal. It's horrible. That under healing he's doing right now is from his actual heal spell. The healing he's taking over time is minimal. It's a horrible, horrible spell in most cases. Gazlo stole a middle turret during that, a middle tower, which is going to reduce your overall shots. I'm going to make this game a little bit longer here. But you're forcing your face in there like I like to see you do. There are 3 dead on the enemy side, even though Malfurion's not showing up as a counter at the moment. People should be up with you. It's a little sad they didn't go with you. Yeah, now, oh, well, Valera, come on back, Valera. Sad no one's watching. You're not in the wrong here. You could say that you... Hey, Ariel. She took her fly talent. Nothing wrong with that. It's cool talent. Very fun. You can see that she showed up just to take a bunch of damage. Okay, here's something we need to talk about, though. It is called Hand of Ragnaros. If Empowered Sulfuris hits at least 2 enemy heroes, it restores 10 mana, and its cooldown is reduced by 2. This is how Rag is killing so many of you in bronze. Check out that cooldown, 4 seconds. Take that down to a 2-second cooldown with 15 mana on his primary sustained spell. Walk apart. Ariel is here. Sure. you go like this. You're trying to get around for body blocks, too, in the first place. When you're doing melee, always be thinking about how you can get in front and clog things. Get away from Ariel. Don't attack. Don't auto-attack. Because you both are going to squeeze together as you crowd up here. And you could lose this fight. Honestly, Rag could win. 2v1 here if you guys are grouped up. Luckily, you both walk away. No harm done. It's a master skin. Oh, wait, okay. It's 2.0. It's not a master skin Ariel anymore. Oh, dear me. I'm still being thrown for a loop by that. Nazebo's been farming the top for days. I guess he might be going for his level 20. A very insurmountable choice here on Towers of Doom. But he has been dedicated to that solo lane for a bit. Gazlo's still down. We have a 1-level lead, so a good time to be making an aggressive engage. You're going to pull a Rag to you. Cool. Lots of health, though. It did isolate actually out. Ooh, nice. Hammer's going to come up, too. Sadly, your blink there was on cooldown. Pretty grouped up, but it's enough damage with Greymane present. As we talk about the mini-comps. Why was that a kill? And our bottom wasn't because Greymane was here, because he had enough damage. Tank supports do not get kills by themselves unless you're 4 levels ahead. You gotta have that damage guy with you. Perfect timing. 3 dead for 40 seconds on the enemy side. Merc's going in the bottom. Bonus tower for us here. This is gonna be a good tower phase. They would have to isolate themselves heavily to try to participate. Either they're going to take the middle tunnel here, which spawns around the 13-14 minute mark there.
And so they return. Capture the altars quickly, heroes.
And that should be the end.
The Raven Lord will fall before me.
May even be able to squeeze in 1 bonus shot, just for fun. Yeah, well done, everybody. Good performance, man. That was a really good Stitches. I really liked your hook targeting. Granted, they didn't have a full-blown dive comp, so you weren't punished in the draft for picking a Stitches. I'm not entirely sure where you may have drafted him. This top bar suggests that you picked him last, which is a fantastic place for Stitches. I truly don't know. Valera was pretty darn good. A solo player for almost the entire game, but really brought you a lot of value. So awesome to see there. Let's check the numbers. Let's see what you empowered. So we did manage through the tanking to get Greymane's damage a little bit up. Ragnaros, using those tools that he has on his talent build there, able to get out a lot of damage on you guys, but you've definitely kept everyone on that enemy team down. You absorbed a ton of damage, which pretty much negates a lot of this top damage here when we think that Gazlo's damage is often untargeted and randomly flying around. So great job. Crushinator's playing some Muradin for us here. Crushinator says, glad you're giving the replay show another run. Given the recent attention to Muradin, I thought you might have some specific insight for me. I'm on a quest to become a warrior main. Aw, love the idea, man. I wish I didn't have to carry in a lot of my games so that I could do more warrior. I love tanking. In Hero League, clearly mastering Muradin is a top priority. I felt decent in this unranked game, but there were times where I felt I was soaking damage for no reason, or focusing too much. Excuse me, the game got loud. It reset our volumes, as replays can tend to do. They are finicky little buggers, but it's cool that we have the functionality nonetheless. I felt I was soaking too much damage for no reason to disrupt their backline rather than protecting my own. I also didn't quite get as much sledgehammer value as I thought I would on Towers of Doom. I would probably take crowd control if I could do it over again. Oh, Crushinator here is in Gold League. Let's go ahead and give him the same treatment, though. Let's go ahead and picture what our engagement is going to look like. Oh my goodness, they have a nub, which is what I immediately look for because I am seeing ability damage, which you wouldn't think. Ability damage. Sonya. Really? She's hitting people with swords. Actually, the majority of damage coming out of Sonya will be ability damage. She has Ancient Spear, dealing 180 magic damage, or spell damage, ability damage, if you will. It kind of varies as to what it's called across the game at times. Seismic Slam, more ability damage, Whirlwind ability damage. We are also going to have a Chromie, who is entirely ability damage. Here we have a Falstad who is rightfully chosen, maybe, perhaps, in some circles, to go Seasoned Marksman, but he will also be a lot of ability damage. So this Anub'arak, even though he's solo tank, he should be a bruiser in a lot of cases, accompanied by another main tank to actually survive the damage. He is going to be a force. So the first error we may have made, actually, was going any sort of spell damage build if we're going to put any of those stacks into Anub'arak. The off-tank is this Zool. Zool has on him a certain ability called Bone Armor. Where'd you go? He gets a special version of it at level 1. He chooses which one he wants, so it looks like it doesn't have a passive on it. He took the Backlash version. When Bone Armor expires, nearby enemy heroes take damage equal to 15% of their maximum health. Ooh, that's going to be scary against Sonya and certainly Muradin and possibly your avatar pick at level 10. Here's the basic ability of it, though. Activate to gain a shield equal to 25% of Zool's maximum health for 3 seconds. So Zool is going to be the off-tank here. Anub'arak will make the engage. Zool will follow it up with a little bit of survivability. He will spread around some damage with his scythe. He will spread around this curse, which nobody really notices, but does have an effect on the game to some degree. His basic attacks gain a wide area effect and reduce the attack speed of heroes and summons in the area by 40%. Lucky for us, he's not likely to hit Falstad with this. Lucky for us too, we're mostly spell damage anyway. It won't affect us too much. But here's sort of the off-tank ability that you're looking for outside of Zool's main survivability. Bone Prison. After a 2-second delay, deal damage. Not really the damage you're concerned about. It's this nearly 2 seconds of root that allow a character like Vala to lock on. A character like Kael'thas to get his explosions off. Just as in our previous games today, let's note the Kael'thas. Let's check for our Clog. We got 2 absolutely frontliners. There's very little reason why they would be hanging out in the mid-range unless they're looking for stuns or maybe a hook to get off for Sonya. There is a Lucio who's going to be running around the middle of everything. Really great. If I'm a Kael'thas, I want to put living bombs on Lucio. He's got increased movement speed. He's very likely to move through and move around other characters. Rather strong pick there. Chromie will likely be in the very back, inching into the middle, but we don't really have a middle outside of Lucio. And then Falstad will be flitting around in the middle too, but he's got mobility. So it shouldn't be a horrible comp as long as Lucio here, Sonya, and of course yourself, don't spread around those living bombs. Roots to follow up, the Bone Prison are pretty scary, and of course the pure damage of Vala there, combining both movement, burst damage, and strong auto attacks. Vala is an extremely strong carry with the right amount of support, and Malfurion may not be enough support for her, so there is absolutely an opportunity to take her down. All right, let's get to it. Let's go ahead and lock on to our man. Let's see his camera angles as he likes to do them. He's got himself that level 1 Perfect Storm talent where he's going to be spamming a little bit in the early game. So we're not really in the early parts watching him to see if he gets effective stuns. They don't really matter right now. He's just stacking them up to increase the damage later on. It also reduces the mana cost. Muradin has some decent mana problems that this can alleviate. So not a bad pick given all the sort of random stuff that'll be flying around. Vala attacks a little too quickly for block to have too much value. Self-regeneration could be nice given the Lucio, kind of a Brightwing style healer. Looks like he just threw out a Draenei symbol. Why is there a Draenei symbol in this game before we get a actual Zool flag and all? Let's go ahead and reduce this just a little bit down to the levels of which I am accustomed. There's the Bone Prison going on a tank, no big deal there. Just go and get nuts, spam. Spam that Stormbolt. Cool, you disengage, yep. One of the fantastic things about Muradin, what makes him a main tank, is his ability to make engagements, to provide CC, but to regenerate. That's something he has absolutely over the enemy Anub'arak. Muradin can leave the battle for a little bit. In that time, the main tank role will fall to the bruiser or the off tank. In this case, it's a bruiser. It's Sonya here, looking all angry up here and currently making her way down this way. Sonya will take over the fight for a bit. She also has her own regeneration through her whirlwind spins, but Muradin goes in, soaks the majority of the burst damage from Kael'thas, maybe those early burst spells out of Vala, maybe some spells from a little bit of everybody. And as he gets low, he will leap away, gaining 25% armor for that escape, maybe for that engage as well, but mostly being out of combat for 4 seconds, he will start to regenerate a lot of health. If you are healing a Muradin, very important, if you are healing a Muradin, don't heal them before they've at least reached 40% health. They are regenerating at great speed already, and to spend your mana before they're at 40% is a waste. Don't heal them. Here, Lucio's passively healing, so that's not a big deal. There is no harm being done by Lucio at the moment. Cool, Falstaff's already taken the top. Sonya should head on down bottom. Chromie will roam. Roaming Chromie is a lot like like those Novas or any stealthy you see. Very low body character who doesn't really have much of a presence in lane. Uh-oh, we've left Lucio alone. There is no problem with Crushinator right now turning around and being a part of what Lucio is cooking up. Sonya should be left alone down there, and Chromie rotating as she's needed. And looks like she's doing exactly that, so we have a very strong start to things here. Nice little shot there. Again, doesn't really matter if it connects or creates anything. We're just getting stacks at this point. Lots of damage. Good little jump away. Avoiding Lucio too. And now we'd be hunting that next Stormbolt target. There's the regeneration. We do have a well good to go, but hey, man, his regeneration is perfectly fine on Muradin here as long as he goes unattacked. Sonya versus, both a Zul. So here's sort of the mini comps at the moment. Sonya versus Zul Vala. Very powerful combination there. She will not be able to get the bomb unless Chromie comes down. We can choose here on Towers of Doom to sacrifice this lower one in order to get the 2 top. And judging by Lucio's positioning here, that's exactly what he wants to do. And as the call rolls out from a support or the tank, it's often the best call to follow. Yep, there's Sonya getting pushed out nice and far. A little bit of aggressive zoning there by Lucio. I think Crushinator should go ahead and get up on Lucio's level. He is zoning at a whole different level. Nice stun there into a damage dealer. Sadly, no damage in range to really follow up, so anyone could get stunned there for stun's sake. Lucio, walk away! Nice dodge. Stopping that living bomb from starting around again. Here's an interesting question that you'll face often. Which character should you stun? Who should you stun? If you got your pick of the litter and you could stun anybody on this enemy team, who would you stun first? We could make arguments for all sorts of things. I say Vala. Vala is sustained DPS. And she is going to keep going no matter what. If you stun Kael'thas here, that short stun duration just adds to his cooldowns. He's going to have a flame strike. He'll still put out a living bomb. Unless it's going to be a delete because there's enough damage in range because you made Kael'thas stand still, there is very little reason to stun him. Now, this is not for Crushinator, because Crushinator is running a Perfect Storm build where he's just getting stacks right now. It doesn't matter who he stuns too much. But for those of you looking to expand your thought process at home, stunning a sustained DPS is a full-on pause in the damage that they've done. This is a minor pause in damage that they will still have on the back end, and it'll still be the exact same amount. Of course, there's always something cute with interrupting someone who might be doing something channeled, someone who might be about to put out a heal, someone who might be about to dive away. All great choices, but there's how you can sort of think about it for your games. Looks like Crushinator. Oh, well, oh my god. Still barely in that aura of Lucio. Manages to get away. Because of his trait, yeah, Muradin can absolutely just stick this out. Don't grab your well before you're at 40% health. You're probably good at this point. And that regeneration is going to keep going and actually make that a full-blown heal. One of the reasons I like Muradin so much. He's actually going to go here with Sledgehammer. Not a talent you see a lot on this map. It's very powerful on Battlefield of Eternity. Could be more powerful on maps where pushing has a bit more value. But it's a really cute stun stack that you can do with Perfect Storm to just really destroy some structures. Ignore the ammo. No one cares about ammo anymore. It's very much about the huge damage you'll put out on a single building very quickly. And this could have been a cute observation by Crushinator here by saying, hey, my team doesn't have a specialist. We, with Chromie and Falstad, have very few ways to take out a building quickly outside of Sonya. Maybe I'll enhance that a little bit by doing some bonus damage. Good body block. He, of course, dives away, but that doesn't matter to me. Great body block awareness. Nope, get away, Chromie. It's all good. Vala needs a little bit of coverage in the bottom. We should get Sonya moving down there. Falstad has come down for a visit too, and we're not going to get anything done here, so might as well split back off. Perfect timing. Everyone goes for it. You can see that crit there into the wall, doing that bonus crit damage. You can see that backlash activating and going off. That was the Zool ability we talked about earlier for that percent-based 15% damage. Another living bomb, but looks like Lucio will be far enough back. Excellent. We got a leap to carry us. Good choice. Always take those creative angles. Don't do the obvious ones. Someone will be waiting for you. So great choice of angles there in escape, and he hangs out longer. This is fantastic, dude. Hanging out, not overreacting, not hearthing out when you have your basic abilities of Muradin, that trait, still going. Chromie is doing an interesting build. Nothing wrong with it. She's taking Bronze Talons. This just means that she's going to be getting in melee a little bit more. Increase Chromie's attack range, which is nice to keep her safe, but also gives her a bonus damage on her next basic attack. So Chromie will be wandering into the danger zone a little more than I might like her to. However, it will increase the sustained damage of the team, and that can be a great bit of burst damage into someone like a Nubarak who has spell reduction. Also look at this level 1 pick here, Nerubian Armor. Every 8 seconds, gain 30 spell armor against the next enemy ability and subsequent abilities for 1.5 seconds. So that works on damage over time effects as well, unlike Li Ming's armor did earlier today. We also see here boomerangs, so some lane clear, which is good to see. I'm glad he didn't go with the secret weapon in this particular comp. It's going to be a self-heal Vala, which makes perfect sense here. She's going to be doing all her talents into arrow, because she wants more self-healing than what Malfurion's heal over time can provide. So she's going to take care of herself a little bit more there. It could be more aggressive of a Zool, and of course, this is a full-blown Kael'thas Flamestrike build. This is one of the ones you really have to watch out for when you're doing double tank, like we are here with Sonya and Muradin. Burned Flesh. When Flamestrike damages 2 or more heroes, they take additional damage equal to 8% of their maximum health. There are already developing some reasons why we might want to do something cute like Haymaker instead of Avatar. We're facing a number of percentage-based abilities. Not an insane amount. We're not facing Tychuses. We're not facing Leorics. But there could be an opportunity here. If we notice our survivability is really high, but our overall damage output is low. And we can start to deduce that right now. Damage is looking decently low right now. We may empower Falstad because he's doing this late game pick with Seasoned Marksman. He gains damage over the course of the game. Let's see what Sonya's up to. Block, Hurricane, and likely another survivability talent. So we may want to invest in a bit more damage out of Muradin, as our performers are a little low. And we're never going to break through that damage of Malfurion if we don't have enough to stop the heal over time in the first place. Oh, Sonya, don't spread. Bad girl, Sonya. He's zoning the area here. This zone is correct if you had a sustain with you. And sadly, you didn't. Look at how Crushinator moves here. And let's, in fact, just zoom this maximum. And Chromie, with her cooldowns, is doing as much as she can back here. She's throwing out orbs. She's got her Sand Blast. But look at these long delays between her spells as she lines them up. And Crushinator is just losing health constantly to Vala, who's letting loose free auto attacks with 0 cooldown and 0 mana cost. If Falstad was a part of this, Crushinator would be in the right because he would be sustaining auto attacks in that enemy side. However, Falstad has been divided by the Bruiser in the top, leaving Crushinator with two choices. Either he retreats his entire team out of here through this direction and Falstad goes back to soaking. We basically give. Or before this moment where he lost all the health to Vala, Sonya becomes the main tank down here. He leaps up here and forces Falstad into the fight, and they meet somewhere in the middle. At even level, with these builds, I would say let's just give. They've already cemented their location in here. Now Crushinator's taken too much damage. He's going to go have to hit as well. He has to leave combat. And the objective is given anyway. And the only reason that went wrong was you could say it could be Falstad's fault. Falstad approached from a bad angle, isolated by himself as the main sustained damage. I'm not sure what that statement's about. I guess Chromie felt like she was being put in a tough spot repeatedly. When you take Bronze Talons, you become your own agent. What the heck? Oh, you just got disconnected for a little bit. Wow. What a problem that was there. Well, we'll see you on the other side. I assume you bounce back as you send over the replay. We'll go ahead and speed this along until we have an actual human player here participating. I mean, AI Muradin's not doing too bad of a job. He's actually zoning like he should. He's actually doing, this positioning's actually pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, he's actually engaging the thing that comes in. Okay, Crushinator's back. Good little zone out of Chromie there too. So Chromie went with the Slowing Sands. Should allow Falstad and other people to line up their shots a little easier. We can always favor doing our own skill shots when we see Slowing Sands come out and hitting people while they're slowed, greatly increasing the chance they're actually hit by those things. Falstad is far away. He gets in position. No sustained damage still, so you can't invest in the Vala here at all. Here you go. This is the mistake. That's mistake time right there. This is going to be all effective damage. Here comes Falstad, finally. Cool down, cool down. Let's see. There was the moment, you saw it there, where he was supposed to stun Vala and stop her from putting so much damage into his face. Let's see where the stun went, because now we've stacked enough. How many stacks do we have? We have 11. That's a pretty good amount of damage. That's a good number of hits. I think it's time we start moving on to other things. He took Ironforge momentum as well. Okay. I don't think you've been auto-attacking enough to warrant this talent, and I don't believe that's your fault. I just think Zul and Anubarak are way too squirrely of heroes. If you're fighting something maybe like an ETC or even a main bruiser kind of comp like a Sonya, you could absolutely get off enough auto attacks to really have enough storm bolts and thunderclaps. But it will increase your overall damage contribution. We just need to make sure you're not zoning like you currently are. You have to get in auto attacks in order to get any value out of that. So where's that stun? Ah, it hit a beetle right in front of a Nubarak. So now in this moment where we really need to stop Vala's damage and interrupt here. You do leap in, and looks like we'll get Vala, no problem. Looks like we hit another beetle there. Those beetles spawn out of a Nubarak. He actually did not take more talents into him, so this is just a normal beetle, but every time he uses an ability, Nubarak puts out a little beetle, which can get in the way of all kinds of things and cause all sorts of problems. Let's keep that zoomed out. Let's actually back up here as we looked at a Nubarak for a second. That was an interesting fight. There's our Crushinator. Divided a little bit on his side. Out of mana, too. Goes up front. He wants to zone for Chromie here. And Nubarak's trying to come around the back a little bit, and Chromie's trying to auto-attack. Not bad. Not a bad choice, but exposing himself a little bit. He wants to go grab his well here, and they die. So it's all a perfect choice. No problem at all. Cool. Now, we are in gold, so things are going to go into a bit of a standard affair phase here as everyone relocates, as they spread out. Once again, we're leaving poor Lucio in the lane by himself all the time. His fault for not taking off sooner, perhaps. but go ahead and be that guy. Help out. Absolutely, we gotta... Oh, Lucio ruined it. Well, the death will still come. More like Lucio ruined the stacks we're going for. Crushinator heads down to the bottom. There's that Vala. We do not have enough damage to really engage that Vala. Chromie would have to hit a number of Sandblasts to wear her down first in order to get a delete. She did go with Dragon's Eye here for 25% more damage in the center, but with Slowing Sand, she can't guarantee that hit. So this bottom core comp is very weak. It would require a stun that is then followed up immediately by Chromie, and we have not seen that level of execution out of her so far this game. I mean, yes, we can maintain a lane. Here is Sonya appearing on the scene. It's still just amazing how much we need that sustained damage out of Falstad before we make any sort of strong engage here. Just because of their reduced frontline damage from spells. That's a great isolation, though. We can get an early Kael'thas. However, he does limp away. We Avatar up. You did guess where he is, but let's see. Sonya's in position. Chromie's still going. Falstad. Where did Falstad die? I think he should have flown into a bush when he didn't. It looks like he just flew into the middle of the meat and potatoes and ended up exploding, which would be his fault, not yours. Still a huge shame, of course, because he is such an important part of the damage. Yeah, look at that. Meat and potatoes right to the face. Let's see how he's doing at the moment. It's okay. It's okay. He really wants his season marksman stacks, which is why he's been so isolated for so long. Of course, killing Vala here would have been far superior because of that sustained damage. You leap to the back. So with Falstad done, yeah, because Sonya's still holding the line. She re-engages. And that's a very long walk for Chromie in order to get her re-engaged now. So Chromie's just favoring auto attacks a little bit too much. Yeah. Looks like it's coming down to getting Falstad comfortable and locked on.
Be gone from my domain.
Let's see, enemy side, we got that Phoenix, an area effect. It will deny our two front lines from getting in where they want to be. Poison Nova, this is already just a bizarre build, but he's basically noting that with the Lucio, the whole enemy team wants to be clogged up, so he's very likely to hit a lot of heroes with Poison Nova. It also can be the superior spell when you're behind over Skeletal Mages, so he may have just noted that the game was a little rough looking going into heroics here. Twilight Dream. This is that mouth ult you want to be taking. After half a second, basically the sound it takes to go, whoa, deal huge damage in an area, silencing them for 3 seconds, and you get the passive of mana regeneration. That's what it's all about. Here's that Locust Swarm as well, dealing damage in area. This is sustained healing, which makes up for Anubarak's biggest problem in that he can't really take sustained damage. He's an ability damage tank. So Locust Swarm makes up for his problems there. Vala's basically gone full ability damage here for no reason at all, just because she wants that self-sustain out of the arrows into the late game. So she took Strafe. Maybe she saw with a Bone Prison, with a Gravity Lapse, with an Anubarak, and a Root, the team was not in need of more stunnage, so she was able to just go pure damage. On our team, we already saw the beat drop. We saw the Mighty Gust. We've seen the Slowing Sands for a while as Chromie gets all her abilities earlier, 2 levels earlier, than her allies and enemies, and then a Leap for a bit of extra engage and stun. Not a bad idea. But with a Leap on the team now, we have a very executable stun stack as Muradin gets a stun and then Sonya leaps in from the back. Now we have to start at level 10 here being careful about who we stun because we could cause Sonya to leap the wrong darn thing. She might think we're making a full-blown engage when actually we're just trying to stun to walk away or maybe get one more stack into the talent we took. Very balled up in the bottom here, but still have a level lead. We're not going to get anything done here, so it's time to spread out. A small window of opportunity, but the stun misses, so just walk away. Engagements failed, walked away. That Zool went and pushed the middle for a second. Now he came back. Now, this is just pure chance. There's no reason for this engage. We are getting a little close to another objective. Oh, the time trap ruins their own shot. Kael'thas does go down. Hopefully, right before he was able to complete, he did complete his quest. Once this quest is done, Flame Strike does bonus damage, and it's not going away. It's permanent once it's completed. So too late on that kill there. He had to disengage. The shield was still going, though, so could have stayed in there. Avatar pops now. Regeneration got him a little bit of health back. Good pile of abilities here, and Nubarak goes down, too. Sonya wants to keep the engage, but it is time for another objective. Ideally here, we leave Falstad to fly up. Looks like he'd be fighting Vala, and Vala's been doing a good job, so he may want a buddy for a little bit of it. Instead, we leave Sonya, who will suffer into the face of Vala a little bit, possibly, if she's not left alone to finish it by herself. And it's good. But Falstad should have been the one to stay down there. Now we need to watch Sonya walk all the way up here, whereas Falstad could have flown right away. Nice jump getting yourself out of that backlash, 50% health damage. Good zoning here too, but you can see how much your zone has suffered without that sweet, sweet Thunderburn. And that is to say, at this point here, we have made a rather odd spec. We do have the Ironforge momentum. We're starting to get out a good number of basic attacks. Thunderclap and Stormbolt, that being W and Q here, the short range skill shot stun, and an area effect slam reduce their cooldown. A while ago, they came through and nerfed the ability to reduce the cooldown on Dwarf Toss because it gave him too much mobility. It was making Muradin too strong at that time. You then took Healing Static. And the Clog isn't very strong here. There's a Nubarak, the only real dive. You may hit a Nubarak and Zul, but you're not going to get a hold of anyone else, really. So with this build, Healing Static isn't going to give you much. I would have loved, particularly when we look at this tab screen as it is right now, I would have loved to see you do Thunderstrike. There are a lot of isolated single targets that you've been stunning out, and you could get huge damage on them. And that could be very effective. You could also go into Spell Shield, you could go into Burning Rage, but I don't think you're sticking it out long enough. You do have Avatar, could spread around a little bit of damage there, but I think Thunderstrike would be really effective here with the build you've already done. However, one of the real key powers of Muradin, this is not to say his spec is wrong, but it is a choice he has made. Crowd control is pretty darn good. Here we go. Thunderburn. Thunderburn. Thunderclap leaves a zone on the ground that explodes after 2 seconds, dealing damage and applying another slow for 2.5 seconds. After 2 seconds, check this out. This slows them for 25% for 2.5 seconds. So you get a stack and it applies a second time. Their attack speed is also reduced during that duration. When you combine this with Healing Static, you create a zone that is going to continue to heal you for 2 pulses for every hero that's standing inside of it. 5% each. Your health is getting massive. You took Avatar. It is a huge increase in your health. More important to me than anything about that healing is the fact that when you Thunderburn, you leave a zone. You leave a zone that gives sight. You leave a zone that's going to do a little bit of damage, and that is going to slow. So if you wanted to walk these guys in, you could throw down a Thunderburn, back it up, get a huge heal. As they try to force through that area, you will get another huge heal. Very powerful. Zoning is very incredible, and leaving stuff on the ground, like what Chromie's doing possibly with Slowing Sands here, but also Thunderburn does that exact same thing. Gives you value. It's visible on the map. It can be inspiring. It can be detrimental. It's a very powerful way to play. But we've made our choices here, and they're not horrible. It adds more damage to us. I would just like a purity of purpose as to which way we were going, more damage or more survivability. 2 levels up here. Why did you pick a survivability talent when you could start winning harder? In particular, oh man, 300% bonus damage right there. Just delete that Zul. At any rate, we're fighting over a big ol' objective here. He goes back, get himself a well. Regeneration continues. Falstad has to disengage. All those beetles wander off into the nearby lane. Sonya makes a hard engage. There is the drop the beat. Lots of living bombs spreading around constantly. But that drop the beat did the sound barrier. Got himself through that. Pretty scary moment there. Both tanks are down, so now it's just a matter of getting the damage out, and you can see just how troublesome that is when Chromie misses her skill shots and Crushinator goes a little too far, ends up going down. But they did end up getting the back of it, so you could say worth here. 2 levels up, you got the objective for your team. Absolutely, you could say worth. Anubarak still dead on the enemy side. Nothing bad's gonna happen on the in-between. See, have we gotten Falstad's damage up, and can we expect it to go up as the game goes on? We really need to start getting over the top of Zool here, who has built a very strange but high damage sort of bruiser build for his Zool. So we're seeing Flow Rider for more ability casts, and then he went and increased on his slow, perhaps feeling like there wasn't enough CC, or maybe feeling a little scared himself in some of the engagements he's had to make. There's that bouncing arrow, bouncing around the extra couple times because of the quests being complete for Vala. A little bit more burst damage than I think Falstad expected. Now Falstad's out for 40 seconds. If you think there's an objective every 2 minutes, that could get a little dangerous. Luckily, Falstad does have fly, and he will be able to fly as soon as he's back. There's Lucio once again, oh jeez, taking the solo lane for himself. He needs a buddy, or he's not going to get anything done down there. Crushinator rolling on in. Yep, let's go help this poor guy. Here comes some poison for no reason at all, and well, Lucio decides to jump into it. Good stun here, but the fight is not happening back here. That guy is thoroughly scared. He's not putting out any DPS. It's time to control the Vala. Nice job. I love tanking through fear. Sadly, our healing static did not have a second pulse there. Was not able to get off in time. Here comes Falstad into the bot. Oh, geez, his fly location is going to leave him a little exposed. Enemies can see that circle. It's sad that you can't be as aggressive as you want on Falstad. He is made of paper. You gotta fly into a bush. I learned the hard way. It took me many, many trials. But flying into a bush is the right way to play Falstad, so you don't have abilities pre-lined up for you on your landing pad. Lucio down, Muradin down. Now we're pretty staggered. This would be a point where this team should just give. Just let it go. Maybe we poke out the top one here while we know they're split, because we can see that Malfurion on the enemy side. Chromie doing a decent little job here poking in, but as they finish the back, they're all going to come forward here. Now we're going to have a full 5v5. The angle here is rather atrocious, though. You are going to empower that Falstad that I wanted you to empower this whole game, but Sonya's off on her own thing. And Chromie with her bronze talons is not going to be able to really be a part of this. She keeps missing her shots, her long-range shots. Falstad actually gets it while the enemy team disengages. Sonya goes for an engage. It's right on top of the tank, though. Everyone putting it into Kale Thoughts. It's a good stun, but again, no dive. Holy crud, dude. What did you die of, though? Vala, probably? She's got a giant killer here in the late game that she picked up. So Crushinator being burned down by some flames there. Phoenix locks onto him. And the dive out of Anubarak gives the final blow. Wow. Brutal. Poison goes out now. No regeneration tank on the team anymore. But Lucio able to counter with his area effect heal over time. Counters that area effect damage over time pretty darn well. Here Falstad's going to get himself in another world of trouble. Sonya re-engages across the time trap, which isn't too bad. Time to walk on back. No stopping there, Chromie. Here we should be focused on 20. Falstad needs to fly off Wayuhearth, and Falstad, it's time to go get some lane XP. You don't need to top off your mana, but he can go back there and then fly immediately to lane with full mana. Just another delay that is not needed. We can race for 20 here for that power spike that's available when we get up there. Sonya has continued to invest herself full into survivability here, which is just going to further increase the importance of keeping things like Falstad alive. And I think that's where all our attention should go. Chromie has proven to me that she is safe enough. She's scary. I'm not much for the brown talons. I don't want her getting in attack range for the most part, unless we're absolutely going to win. But making Falstad feel at all comfortable seems to be our best goal now. 3 in the bottom, absolutely great pings. Let's get this top down real quick. We are 20 for a brief window now, so this needs to turn into a team fight. This needs to turn into a fort. We need to charge down here. How long is this going to take? Are we good? Okay, we're good. Let's all move together. Let's hope Falstad doesn't try to make an engagement before everyone's there. Same goes for Sonya. Shady Nasty working on a camp there in the back. Late game, Kael'thas able to take camp so well. All right, here we go. Good positioning. Makes an engage.
Be swift.
Or a zone, I should say. There's the engagement, as it's called. Falstad is heading off on his own angle. Sonya is trying to get a hold of Kael'thas again. I would like for us to delete Avala. Shot flies. Hits the enemy support. Sad thing is, supports have the easiest time healing themselves because you're always watching your own health. Nice flame strike dodge, but the second one comes out. Yep, that's a talent you gotta watch for. We all do it though. I'm not riding crushing air here at all. Fury the Sunwell at 16. Flame strike explodes a second time. Most Kael'thas's will take this, so be aware. Keep an eye out for it. Lots of damage. There goes the Anubarak Locust Swarm. It lasts for 8 seconds. That is not a long time, but he will be very resilient during this time, and he will go extremely ham. It's good to just back up. We have enough poke with Chromie to just disengage this. Instead, we force ourselves into time abilities, and he explodes. He explodes hard. Looks like, did we have Hardened Shield on cooldown for that? The best way to think of Hardened Shield is absorb burst damage, sustain damage, or the other way around, absorb the sustained damage. Make sure you activate this during Vala's auto attacks. Don't worry so much about things like Kael'thas, because that's just going to happen. It's going to come in piles. But stopping the sustained damage, stopping burst damage is great, but really use your eyes to focus on the sustained damage locking onto you, because that probably means the burst damage is in range and the tank is tanking well on the enemy side. So Vala about to lock on. Here when Vala's locked on, that'd be the time to pop that out, try to survive through it. The beat is dropped a little late by Lucio there on sound barrier, but Muradin did explode rather quickly as far as Muradin exploding goes. Big lockdown on a Falstad now, and that damage is going to roll through everyone. Look at this whole team is forcing itself through the Chromie area. She does fire on the slowed area, which is good. Sonya became main tank. Falstad not able to get comfy anymore, though, without enough support. Vala going on to the Chromie there, and sadly the Flame Strike connects. Sonya comes over the wall now. She's got her own shields going at the moment, so she can go for a little bit here. She's trying to walk in Falstad, but he can't get comfy. Zool actually came full around the back and started attacking him. You can see just how much tanking is about making your DPS feel comfy, making them feel like they're cool, that they're being effective. It's a lot of damage, and Muradin did go down early. It is a huge disappointment to have lost that fight, but just looking at this enemy damage, it is so high across Kael'thas and Vala. We take a huge cut from Chromie at 80 down to Falstad's 45. Sonya only at 33, which is below Anubarak, and even Malfurion pumping out 18 is about where Muradin is. We could perhaps make some observations that the range and impact of Dwarf launch was not what you needed here either. I don't think it's a bad build given everything you've gone for already. I'm a little surprised that with your late game survivability picks, you skip Stone Form here. Of course, the highest damage one here is going to be given the Axe. You got an impact radius, which could be neat for how thickly they're stacked together. Maybe you feel like you should be able to leap the same thing Sonya does. That's more of a coordinated effort. I think your build's cute. And I'm sure I think you already said it too in the chat there earlier. I think your Thunderburn, healing static into give them the Axe, because you can supply your own slows, and you really do need Thunderburn to make sure you reapply that second slow so you get maximum value out of give them the Axe. You're auto attacking the right targets when you can lock on. That could have won you the game and been a greater damage output at 16. Increasing your sustained damage while you have more survivability is the right choice. While you have less survivability, you would want to increase your burst damage. Seems obvious, but it's a great way to think about it. Either you're going to go in fast and hard, or you're going to tank it through, survive their burst, and come out the other side with enough damage to finish the fight. You can see how massive those perfect storms can get, though, and why he was seduced by something like Sledgehammer to non-heroic enemies. I mean, he could steal a boss in seconds if they could control the area for it. There's Chromie doing a little bit... Okay, there's a little bit of face checking there by Chromie. Poking out with some spells there. You're right to go and take that. You do have enough survivability maybe to poke your face in there. Vala's in the bottom. Kael'thas is in the middle area, which means this is a good one to take. We should probably take the top fort off the top of this. We could even take a boss with Vala as far away as she is. Here, in a coordinated environment, I'd say, hell yeah, let's just take a boss and give. Let's take the top, we'll take the boss, let's give. But with Kael'thas seen in the top there, and actually the whole enemy team seen in the bottom, we might be able to, with any luck, if the beetles don't get in the way, we can maybe kill an Anubarak here right before the fight. Kael'thas is so far away. This is the time to win it out. There's a hardened shield going out, though. Big silence from Malfurion is going to cause everybody to lose a little bit of power for a second there. The sound barrier comes out, keeping everybody going. It's a decent slow zone. Good hold of the healer, though, but Vala's the one you got to be a hold of as the main tank there. You got to be stopping her. You jumped back because you're worried about those things going on to do full core damage. A fine observation. Your job isn't done, though. I would have liked to see even Sonya or Falstad respond to that. You are still main tank. It's a shame those shots go by, but right, I mean, if you even got to them, what were you going to do to them? Well, with your Sledgehammer build, you could have killed them quickly, but you were on cooldown and all that sort of thing. So keep your job in mind. Always do your job first, and then pay attention to the other ones. Boss is a waste. Tower. Well, I see what you're saying. You're hoping to get more of a snowball effect. Well, luckily, due to your build, you're going to burn through this in record time. The other thing, too, is you are lower than the enemy team, so getting rid of the boss here means that there won't be a boss should they win the next fight. So that could be good for you as well. So they'll be forced to go clean up the top first or defend the bottom. Here comes Malfurion, Anubarak, everyone coming up in basically one big wave. Go ahead and stick your face in there. Get that Sledgehammer in. And now we take the bottom camps and see if we can walk something in. And even if we can't, we're going to see if we can, just to keep some pressure and keep them from trying to dominate back the map. 2 levels up now, too. So this is looking pretty good for victory. We just have to avoid that opening. It's still really scary because sitting right here, Twilight Dream, Locust Swarm, Strafe, Living Bomb. There's so many ways to just instantly explode against this team if shields aren't popped at the right moment. Okay, you want to walk them in? Chromie does too. We need some sustained damage with this, though. Because of Falstad, because of Sonya, this choice has been made poorly, which is a shame to see. We are going to give that out. So it'll all come down to these next towers. Yep, Chromie's a little frustrated, and rightfully so. People are pulling themselves in odd directions. Not so much maybe people, just the roles needed to perform said operations like sustained damage are pulling themselves off to other activities. So the enemy team able to very, very quickly clean this up because, frankly, they didn't have any reason not to. There's nothing keeping them in other lanes. Here we're putting everything into the enemy tank. It's a bit scary. Vala's running free there in the bottom. Really could use a stun right now. I know you were silenced there, but really a stun into that strafe stops the full duration of it. Things like Lily's cups, things like a mosh pit, strafe as well. Anything that can be stunned and stop a time duration ability is going to be extremely strong. Of course, nice job not leaping back in the middle of your team. I felt the temptation there out of your body motion. And Falstad grabs it back, and that'll be 4. So you were victorious. Nice job. Game, as says Chromie. Not quite a good game. Well, Chromies are observant, right? They're sitting in the back lines the whole time. They're watching other people play, in a sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chromies end up being a bit more grumpy than the average goer. Excellent. Well, nice job in the end. A bit of an odd talent build. I think it made things more difficult for you, but you did use it in the late game to effect And that could be all that matters. I think it'd be a great build for something like Battlefield of Eternity when it comes back in rotation.